Any item that you get wrong in any dictation, make sure that you find a way to practice it so you can learn to hear it correctly, especially in English. Of course, the exotic sounds we're learning are important too, but English is really, really, really important because this is basically an English department. We call it 外文系, but the most important thing we do here is English. So if you have any trouble recognizing any English sound in any dictation, or if you notice otherwise, besides in a dictation that you have a problem with a certain sound, add it to your pronunciation improvement program. Everybody get that? Put it in your pronunciation improvement program and work on it till you get it, because you will get it. You can do it. If you don't get it now, that means you just haven't worked hard enough on it, or there's something that you don't quite understand about it, like the difference between 舌尖舌根, the difference between alveolar and velar. There's probably something there. And all you have to do is go in and find what the problem is and solve the problem. You can solve it. It's not unsolvable. So if you're still getting low scores on English items, on items in an English dictation, use that. That's a gift to you. This is what I still need to work on. So make a list of the things you need to work on, analyze them, classify them, put them into your pronunciation improvement program. Find a way to actually fix the problem. You can use online files, audio files. You can get a tutor, somebody who will help you out. Whatever it is, solve the problem. You can do it. All of you have the ears and the brains to do it, so make sure that you actually do it. A very, very quick book sharing, because I have a tiny bit of news. I'm going to teach you guys Shang next semester.
Oh.
Is that a big deal? Is that a big deal?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm 1 year younger.
Okay, thank you. Why is it a big deal?
It's true that we have many teachers sharing the guide.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't answer my question. Why is it a big deal? It's just news. Xinqian?
We hope that we can be told by you.
Oh, you hope or you wish you could have?
Yeah.
Wish or hope?
We wish.
Ah, you got to learn that one. I hope we can be taught by you means next year I'm going to take your class, but I wish we could have been. Mm-hmm. Thank you anyway, it's very kind of you. This is the book we're going to use, just to show you, in case you're curious. I loaned it to Professor Gao Zhaoming. He will have second semester. I have first semester. And we were discussing which book to use, and I said, how about this one? He said, don't worry, I already have it. It's a good book, so it's decided. So if anybody wants to prepare ahead of time, you can give them the news. Okay. The other teachers will be Lin Youyu and also Xu Jialing 老师. And Wang Shanshan will be teaching the following year. So we're going to Lunliu. It's a very complicated Lunliu. Wang Shanshan is the whole year, every other year. But then for the years that she's not teaching, plus the other class, those the four of us will be teaching. Okay, two classes, each gets 1 semester. Okay? Just thought you might be interested. Next thing is vowels and consonants. Chapter 14 for today. Any questions?
I counted the IP chart on Wikipedia, and I got roughly 116 to 117 consonants. But in this chapter, it says that there are about 600 consonants. There, like something missing in our chart, or
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of details, and they count things. I'm sure they count things like voiceless nasals. Those don't have separate symbols on the IPA chart. They just give you a little circle for anything that's voiceless.
actually Wikipedia does have.
It counts them?
They put it on the regular chart along with voice one.
I can't answer because I haven't looked at that chart recently, but let me write it down. I will try to find out where the differences are. If you want to find out about the many different sounds of the world's languages, I recommend the book whose title I just gave you, The Sounds of the World's Languages. I think that's it. And it's by Peter Ladefoged and Ian Madison. I worked through that book very carefully, The hardest chapter for me was clicks. Clicks was very tiring to read. It was long. And the whole book was kind of demanding for a native speaker who does phonetics. But it's a really excellent book, because if you want to know more details about stops, fricatives, clicks, trills, taps, everything, it's all in there. So Peter Ladefoged, Ian Madison, I believe it's called The Sounds of the World's Languages. It's a quite accessible book. It's easy to get. And it's relatively easy to read. I mean, it takes a lot of concentration, but it's still not one of those really technical reports that are impossible to read. It's still very accessible. I recommend that if you want to learn about many of the different sounds of the world's languages that aren't usually covered. Yeah. I don't know about that one. I will have to look into that. Okay, so it's Wikipedia IPA chart. And it gave about 160, you say?
Yeah, about that amount.
And then this book says over 600, and how do we count for that? I will try to figure that out. Okay, I will have a look. That's a good question. Thank you. Anybody else? On chapter 14 or anything else that's come up in the meantime? Anybody? Please ask quick if you have questions.
67.
And it says that sibilants are more common than other fricatives because they have more acoustic energy. But I wonder what's the relationship between their commonness and the acoustic energy.
It means that they're easy to hear and distinguish from other sounds. So, don't look at me. What sound was that? No, it was. So, is not a very common sound. It is used in a number of languages, but it's not extremely common. English has it, Spanish has it, Greek has it. A number of languages have it. However, it's not extremely common. It has very low acoustic energy. It's the quietest sound in English. That's the quietest sound we have. And if you're on the phone, it's really hard to hear because the phone cuts off the higher frequencies and even also some lower frequencies. But the main reason is because it cuts off the higher frequencies. So they all sound the same on the phone. They are not really distinct enough to be really good fricatives. But s and sh are very noisy, and those are easy to distinguish from one another. Okay? Good. Anybody else? Yeah.
On page 166,
Mhm.
it says very few languages use a uvular trill. So what is a uvular trill? Because it said like in French and German, they use another sound that sounds like uvular trill, but it's not a real one. So what is a uvular trill?
It says they use a sound made with the back of the tongue near the uvula for the sound of R, but it is seldom actually a uvular trill. It's probably a little further back than velar, but not all the way to uvular. So, for example, richtig, richtig. It's not quite down to the uvula. It's close.
So is this uvular trill or not?
A uvular trill is, let me get some coast right there, it helps. Ah, 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 ah. 出口的声音. Ah, ah. Can everybody do it? We're going to be learning it. Ah. Your uvula is vibrating back and forth against the root of your tongue, the back of your tongue. I learned that one in Germany. In Germany, they don't usually use the trill unless they're emphasizing something or being sarcastic. So, richtig, you know, if you're going to really make a point, you can do it. I remember my German host father. He would use it when he was acting very authoritative. I'd ask him a question. He would discourse on my question, give me a very authoritative, official-sounding answer. That's when I heard most often. But usually there's just a bit of friction. I can say that from my time in northern Germany. So richtig, it's more fricative, not usually a trill. If you want to make it a trill and show off, you can. But just like in American English, you can say right. I don't usually exaggerate it that much. I say right. 这是蛮讲话的一个版本. So the same is true of German and these other languages, and French too. Where you will hear a uvular trill is, for example, in the singing of Edith Piaf. Do you know the singer Edith Piaf? Okay, maybe we can play her during break. I mention her almost every year when we talk about uvular trills. Because then she would say rouge instead of rouge. Rouge, it's fricative in normal French, but in her singing, she wants style and effect. 她会加一些技巧，加效果. So she used a lot of uvular trills. That answered the question. Yeah, okay, anybody else? Actually, the chapters we're covering in vowels and consonants are pretty well keyed to what we're doing in the book, because we're just about to start chapter 8, and we're just about to start chapter 4 in here. And those are pretty well keyed to each other. So we've done okay this semester. Anything else? If not, please just hand in your summaries. And chapter 4 for next time, and chapter 14 for Sylvie. Yeah, no problem. Did you understand everything in chapter 4? No, because, so I'll have to warn you, chapter 4 is already starting on acoustics, and we have not done much on acoustics yet. Everybody listening? There are probably things in chapter 4 you still won't understand. Don't freak out. I won't be able to give you a complete answer until we get to it in chapter 8. And I've just started preparing chapter 8. And I've discovered this is the first chapter that has been greatly revised. Most of the chapters so far have been almost the same as previous editions. But Professor Johnson's specialty is acoustic phonetics. So suddenly, oh my gosh, 很不熟. It's not, 我还是知道他要讲的内容, but it's different 文字, it's a different approach. So chapter 8, I will have to prepare myself to see how he introduces acoustics. And I hope we can still do all the activities that we've done other years, because there are a lot of fun things we can do. He's going to get more technical than the previous editions were, based on what I've seen so far. Some of the things are still the same, like I see the figures are mostly the same. Okay, so vowels and consonants has been taken care of. And I use the singular there. Vowels and consonants has been taken care of because, talking about the book, right? Okay, so what is our job today? It's to finish chapter 7. I don't think we will have time to get to the exercises. So those we will cover on Monday. Test is on Wednesday, a week from today. Monday we'll finish going over the exercises and hopefully start on chapter 8. That's the plan. Okay? Let's continue with chapter 7 and try to finish it up. Go.
Page 175, third line. You should be able to hear that s, sh, differ from in this way. The same kind of difference occurs between the voiced fricatives z, zh, and v.
Okay, I think we have to back up. Can you read the first few sentences? Because we're talking about different ways to classify fricatives. We talked about a grooved tongue versus a flat tongue. And then he says here, this is not the best way to classify fricatives. We're going to separate them on a purely auditory basis. That means we're not going to look at what you're doing with your tongue or your other articulatory organs. We're going to use our ears. And last time when we stopped, we said which two have the loudest high pitches, which is what we were just talking about in chapter 14 in vowels and consonants, right? So let's just go over that. Listen as I pronounce these, everybody. Sh. What's the loudest? Sh is the loudest. Second loudest? Third loudest? And last is, I just told you that's the quietest consonant we have. Quietest sound we have in English. Excuse me. And you can hear that s, sh are louder and f are softer. Go ahead. And we have similar differences between z, zh, those are pretty loud. V, v are not quite as loud. V sounds like a cell phone, okay?
The fricatives s, z, sh, sh, zh are called sibilant sounds.
Sibilant sounds.
Sibilant sounds.
Right.
They have more acoustic energy, that is, greater loudness, at a higher pitch than the other fricatives.
That is greater loudness.
that is greater loudness
Right.
at a higher pitch than the other fricatives.
Then the
The other fricatives.
other goes high. Then
The other fricatives.
There we go. Okay. Your English is really excellent. So I'm going to try to point out things that you still can work on and improve. And one of them is 对比, contrast, contrastive stress, and continuation rise. And I think you already know about those, both of them. Okay, so sibilants in Chinese again. 四音, and we all know about that. We also added ch and j because they contain the fricatives. The affricates are stop plus fricatives. So ch and j contain two of these sounds. That's our set of sibilants. One year a student said, I don't know why we have all of these arbitrary categories in phonology. They thought sibilant. What did they establish this category for? 就很无聊，就是没事就随便那个建立一个类型. Is that true? Is it just for fun? We thought that these had a nice sound and we called them sibilants. Was it just for that? And it was in phonology that this came up. This was in 语概课 many years ago. Is it just a random bunch of sounds we put together in a random category? No. What is our basis? Why is it meaningful to have a category called sibilants? Phonologically, not just phonetically now, but phonologically. That's right. It's because of the English plural forms. Just for that, it's worth it. Because we need a category for that group of sounds that requires us to add uz at the end instead of z or s. So, for that reason, we've already shown that they have a separate kind of behavior in common. All of the sounds do the same thing in the same situation. So that justifies establishing a new category. Next.
The sound patterns that occur in many languages often arise because of auditory properties of sounds. We can divide fricatives into sibilant and non-sibilant sounds.
Sibilant and non-sibilant.
Sibilant and non-sibilant sounds only by reference to auditory properties.
Auditory properties.
Auditory properties.
Right. Just like sound patterns, even though auditory is an adjective. And, right. So what they're saying is all we have to do is listen to how they sound. We can divide sounds into sibilants and non-sibilants on a phonological basis using the plurals rule. But we can also use our ears. Okay?
We need to divide them into at least two groups to show how English plurals are formed.
To show how English plurals are formed.
To show how
Not show. Look at my
show.
Yep.
To show how English plurals are formed.
Once more. To show how English plurals are formed.
To show how English plurals are
Use the echo.
plurals.
To show how English plurals are formed.
To show how English
You
plurals.
didn't get the echo. You didn't get the echo. Be very quiet and listen to the echo in your head before you repeat, okay? So watch and concentrate. To show how English plurals are formed. Go.
To show how English plurals are formed.
That time you had the echo, right?
Yeah.
I think you heard it because you did it right.
Plurals.
Okay?
And consider words ending in fricatives such as cliff, moth,
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 M-O-T-H, moth, 就是 like 蝴蝶的那种不是那生蛋的，不是那种生很大的蛋的那种。And also M-O-M, how do you say that? Mom, because 大英文在演戏的时候 somebody said mom, mom. We don't say that. It's mom. Even in British English, you don't say mom. What do you say in British English? Yeah, M-U-M, but U in British English is pronounced more ah, so mom. Mom in British, mom in American, they're very close, even though they have different spelling. Okay? Moth,
moth, kiss, dish, church, dove,
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 good.
lathe,
Lathe,
maze, rouge,
rouge,
judge.
very good. Do you know all these words? 悬崖, moth, kiss, dish, church, dove, like a lathe. What is it? 车床, exactly. Not many people know that. How do you know that? Good for you. Okay, 车床 is a lathe. You know what a 车床 is in Chinese? 那中文懂吗? Right, I didn't think so. It's not an English problem. It's an object problem. There's a machine, if you have, say, for example, a pillar-shaped piece of wood, 就是像一个棍子一样圆的，像圆柱的那种形状. And then you put it in a machine that holds it on both ends like this. And then the machine turns it around very fast. And then you have a special tool to carve into that so it has indentations that are very 均层，就是非常的平均这样子，很均匀. For example, the leg to a chair or a bed. And it turns it around really fast, and then you have a knife-like tool, and then you can make an indentation in it. 然后呢，就是中间那个凹进去的那个圈圈，它会很均匀. That's a 车床. That's a lathe. All right. So that was an object problem, not an English problem. Lathe. That's lathe. And maze. 米缸 rouge. Right. 红胭脂 or 腮红. We don't usually say it anymore. 以前是油脂的，然后颜色很深. My mother used rouge long ago, long time ago. And judge, we know. Let's make the plural form for each of these, starting with cliff. Just give the plural, don't give the singular. Go. Cliffs. Moths. This one becomes voiced. Moths. Go on. Kisses. There we go. Now we have the sibilants. They're starting. Next. Right. Not a sibilant. Lathes. This is voice, not a sibilant. Huh? Ha 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 ha! 受骗了. What is it? That's a voiced sibilant, right? So we say? Good. Rouges. That's je, not je. It's je. Rouges. But we don't usually say rouges. Many different kinds of rouges. I never heard that. Many different kinds of rouge. I don't think I've ever heard those, the plural. Go ahead. And? Very good. Let's go on.
Which of these words add an extra syllable?
Which of these words what? Oh, yeah. I'm
add
sorry. I thought it was adds. I was jumping. Good. Go. You're right. Go ahead.
Add an extra syllable in forming a plural.
Right.
If you say them
Plural.
Plural,
Right. Why does it go down?
which
It's a WH word, right?
if you say them over to yourself,
If you say them over, why do we stress it that way? Because say over is a phrasal verb. Excellent. Good.
if you say them over to yourself, you will find that they are all monosyllables in the singular.
Monosyllables.
Monosyllables
Right.
in the singular.
Right.
But
In
those
the singular. We're going to have a contrast with singular. You have to plan and stress it. Okay?
But those that end with one of the sounds s, sh, z, j, that is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative,
All right. We've got repetition here. Can we plan that one before we read it again?
that is,
That is
continuation.
continuation rise. This is 固定的. That is 是固定的片语. So that is with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. You really need to plan that one ahead. Otherwise, you'll probably just stress everything about with the same amount of stress, and then it won't sound right. Okay, I'm going to do it wrong first and then right and compare the two. And the second one will sound much better to your ears because actually you've heard it correct many times, but a lot of you haven't started saying it that way yourself. Okay? That is with a wrong way. That is with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. That's the wrong way. And that's the way most Taiwanese would read it if they were pretty good, right? But the way we really say it is that is with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Doesn't that sound better to your ears or not? Does it sound better or not? Be honest, please. Not yet? If it doesn't sound better to your ears yet, then put it in your plan and start working on paying more attention to repeated information, taking the stress off of repeated information, putting special stress on contrasted information. Those two go together. So that's rule 2 and rule 3. 有点互补的关系. Let me do this 2 again. Compare them. Listen with really high concentration. 要很专心地听. And listen to your gut. What does it mean to listen to your gut? 你要很注意你自己的直觉, your intuition. Listen to your gut. It means your unconscious brain is telling you, that's right. That sounds like my native speaker teachers when they're talking English. When you say it the first way, it sounds like most Taiwanese. Your gut will tell you that. Because you guys all have the data in your heads. But sometimes your conscious brain is not really zeroing in on it. It's not really paying much attention to it. Everybody's following what I'm saying? Right. So you've got the information. Your gut will tell you. Actually, it's your unconscious brain. But your conscious brain may have not yet have decided to really take it seriously. So listen again. Wrong way. That is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. All right? Everything has about the same amount of stress. That means the listener will have a hard time identifying what is important and what is different the second time from the first time. That's why we use contrastive stress. So the listener gets a little help in identifying what it is that's so special about the second part that wasn't about the first part. So the correct way, that is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Does it make sense now? Let's try reading it together. Do you remember the right tone of voice? I'll say it one more time and then we'll try to do it together. That is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Let's try it. Go. That is. With a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Everything was good except one thing. You put too much stress on one syllable. Everything was good except one syllable you stressed too much. Anybody know which one? If you stress a syllable too much, the listener will think it's what kind of a stress syllable. If you stress one syllable too much as compared to the other syllables, remember stress is always relative. 要跟别的有重音的音节相比，你才知道那个 stress 的差别。stress 的差别就是说，一定要跟别的有重音的音节比较，才能知道它的 stress 比较多，还是差不多，还是比较少。Okay, which syllable do you think you stressed too much? Maybe it wasn't everybody, but a lot of you did. No, in fact, that was the correct one. Where is the tonic? Where is the tonic? Right, tain, isn't it? Since tain is the tonic, where do we have to be careful not to put a tonic? Affricate, you got it. So if you go too high on affricate, your listener will think the tonic. And if it's the tonic, what is the listener going to conclude? I've already got the main point. I don't have to pay attention to the rest. Put this in your notes. This is really, really important. I don't know if there's any book that will tell you this. Maybe there are, but you might not run into it. If you go too high on affricate, your listener will think, that's the important point. Therefore, I don't have to pay attention to the rest of the utterance because I already have the most important part. So tonic is very, very important in helping your listener get the point. If you do it wrong, your listener will be it'll be tiring, yeah? The listener will be tired, and what else? Confused, misled, 被误导，他会被误导，因而会觉得 confused and tired, all of it together. So we don't want to put too much stress on affricate. It needs to be stressed because affricate is new. However, we need to leave space to go up for the tonic stress. There we go. I'll read it one more time and pay attention to the difference in the amount of stress I put on affricate compared to containing, okay? That is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Did you hear it? Da 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 da. Da da da. It's higher, so it's stressed. So that is with a sibilant fricative or an not stressed. Affricate containing. a sibilant fricative. Got it? All right, and that's just a totally normal English pattern. We use these probably thousands of times every day. So it's really, really basic and important. Let's try it again. Go. That is. Good. And the only thing you did wrong this time, the level of stress was good. The thing you could improve is cut doesn't have to go down. Africate goes down if it's by itself in isolation, right? Africate. However, we've got something else coming, so let's just keep it level. And africate all the way to con, and africate containing, okay? That's how it works in English. You didn't know that before, I bet. So africate, 你一下降, we still might think it's a tonic because you've gone down. As soon as you go down, especially if you go down too much, we think it's finished. So one more time, go. With a sibilant fricative, we don't want to go too high. We want to save some height for the second part of the utterance of this part of the sentence. Listen again. Listen to me do it again. Be really sensitive to my level of stress. If I change it, if I go lower, whatever happens, if I pause. That is, with a sibilant fricative, it's a little higher, isn't it? But I didn't go sibilant fricative. I didn't go too high. And I certainly didn't go sibilant fricative. So listen again. That is, with a sibilant fricative or an affricate containing a sibilant fricative. Go. That is. Jiga. That was good. Okay? That was a lot of information to get it right, wasn't it? Now, when you think about how many people don't even know what tonic stress is, and then you have to explain to them what's going on here, that would take a lot of explaining, wouldn't it? So, what is the best way? I mean, to get all this information to the Minzhong of Taiwan, most people are not so sophisticated that they're going to understand or have the patience to go through all of this information, this phonetically oriented technical information. It'll be too much. They'll get tired of it, right? They're just not going to be interested. It's really important for a teacher to model it correctly. Because if you keep modeling it correctly, it will be echoing in everybody's heads. They may not even know the rule, but they'll start doing it right just because it's echoing in their heads. From the very beginning, your first English teacher is really important because very often your pronunciation hardly changes at all after your very first teacher. A lot of you probably talk to some extent like your first English teacher because after that, you're not paying attention to pronunciation. It's not so new and they don't teach it much in class. So if we make sure that the first English teacher that kids get, no matter when they start, if they start in 3rd grade or if they start in 5th grade or if they start in junior high school, that their first English teacher knows what they're doing, right? That's my conclusion. We need good modeling. Because with good modeling, you will pick it up yourself. That's my opinion anyway. Okay, and let's finish the sentence.
Become 2 syllables in the plural.
All right, so if it ends with a sibilant and we want to make it plural, we need to add an extra syllable. So instead of kiss, kiss, we have kiss, kisses, 2 syllables, okay?
It seems as though
Make the stop at stops more a little clearer.
it seems as though
Good.
as though English does not favor 2 sibilant sounds together. It breaks them up by inserting a vowel before adding
By inserting a vowel, this is a tonic.
By inserting a vowel before adding a sibilant suffix
Sibilant.
sibilant suffix.
It's not a compound.
A sibilant suffix
Good.
to words ending in sibilants.
Very good. Excellent. We already know this content really well, okay? So this should not be a problem. He doesn't call it dissimilation. But in my opinion, this is my interpretation, this is a kind of dissimilation. Assimilation is, in Chinese, 同化, and dissimilation is 异化. So this is a kind of 异化. We make the sounds different so that our ears can hear them clearly. Let's go on.
Trills, taps, and flaps. The most common pronunciation of the sounds written with the
Of the-
letter the most common the most common pronunciation of the sound written in the letter R.
First of all, you said sounds instead of sound, and then you said written in instead of written with. Now, it doesn't mean, it's not because, well, it isn't grammatical, it's true. It's not so much because of that. But remember how we read. We memorize a short phrase, and then we say it from memory. Make sure that when you're filtering, that you don't filter out the original correct words. So you're going to have to pay special attention to word endings and things like 虚词 especially. Because very often you change a Taiwan English 虚词. Okay? Go ahead. Or 可能就是比较常用的一个. Let's try it again.
The most common pronunciation of the sound written with the letter R in the languages of the world is trilled R.
Is
The trilled
yes,
R.
少了一个 the. So slow down. I mean, you're a very fluent reader, but it's better to slow down and get it all correct than read fast and miss a bunch of things. Okay? So slow down. Accuracy comes before everything else. Accuracy is the most important. Just like knowing who the queen is and who the former prime minister is. We had almost a whole discussion, a whole class on this in Dai Yingwen. Why are you giggling the way you're giggling? Jerome, what's so funny to you?
Because I saw the news that one of our TV company mistake the Queen and the
Margaret Thatcher. I understand it wasn't just one. One made the mistake and others copied them.
That's like because news nowadays is like copying each other.
And that was a really clear path. We could see who copied from who. We know who started. Copy, 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 haha. We know how the news is put together. Wasn't that creepy? Now this is a serious problem. I don't want to get off on a tangent because we did practically a whole freshman English class on it this morning, and we had a class discussion on it. But the very core of what we were saying is we need 扎实训练. I think the Métis in Taiwan, we should throw away 5/6 of it. 5/5左右，我就计算了一下，大概5/5可以丢掉，重来。我认为那个部分可以丢掉，大概有1/6还可以。And we start over. You kind of agree? It's really bad. I mean, Taiwan has a lot of wonderful things for it. I wouldn't insult Taiwan with no good purpose. I don't watch TV. That's the biggest reason. Many people don't. They're sick and tired of it, of the news. It's not just TV news, newspapers, a lot of them, it's the same thing. It's not totally unrelated to what we're doing here. What we want here is to be 扎实. And thinking about my own interests and personality, I'm a kind of person who gets very heavy sometimes. 内容就是很扎实. I like 扎实的食物. I mean, not junk food, but food. I don't like 汤汤水水的东西. 我也不希望汤汤水水的言论. So that's just the kind of person I am. I like things that are concentrated and 扎实. Some people get scared away from it because it's too intense. 就太多太重了. But I think Taiwan needs a lot more of that because 太多东西是轻飘飘的. People are just getting it done for the sake of getting it done, not checking, not taking responsibility, not really caring if it makes sense. It's just going out. So, I mean, that's one of the things that we are trying to do better in this class is be very 扎实. I mean, every single thing, I try to point it out so you know exactly why we're doing what we're doing. And not just say, you did it wrong, do it this way. Why? Never mind, just do it. And that has happened before. We also had a discussion about why Taiwan students don't give so much feedback. And I don't know if I told you, but one student said that she tried to ask her teacher questions. Did I tell you that story? 这一班没有讲. She would ask in high school, she would ask her teacher questions. And the teacher said, 我们刚刚讲过了，你没有专心听吗？她说有，可是有些地方我还是不太懂. And so he yelled at the student for not paying attention. When that happens, what are the students going to do in the future? No one's going to ask questions. Now, this is one student. She wrote a really nice essay, which 我要她念给大家听, even though it was written in Chinese. I don't know if anybody has had somehow similar experiences to this. The teachers give you some kind of feedback that shows, I don't welcome your questions, just shut up and take notes. This is a serious problem. Teachers make mistakes. We make mistakes all the time. Every human being makes mistakes all the time. Students often know it, right? You often know it. And then if the teacher doesn't welcome feedback, what do? You just let it go and act like there's nothing wrong, right? So that ties together too with what's happening in the news and people not getting good training, people not being used to feedback, not checking their facts, and just putting things through the machine, running them through the machine and then not checking anything. This is something that really needs to be fixed. And I told my freshman English students, I said, you guys are responsible for thinking harder for all these people who do not want to think. Now that's kind of a heavy responsibility, but you guys are here because you're really smart and hardworking. And humans don't like to use their brains to think. We don't like to use our brains. We don't like to because it really is tiring to think, all of us. I mean, even those of us who've ended up at this really wonderful university, we still don't like to think too much because it's so tiring. If there's a way to do it easier, our brain will say, do it the easier way, I'm tired. That's the way brains work. Now this is already the top people in Taiwan. Now, 何况 the people who are not top, they're going to it's going to be much worse with them. They're not going to want to think so much, and they don't have the tools because they don't have the training, and they don't have the motivation. So, for those of you who have good brains and good training and lots of motivation, you're going to have to do more thinking for everybody because other people are going to be really lazy about thinking. You're going to have to take more responsibility for what happens in this society. I'm very serious about that. If you just shake your head and say, oh, how 丢人, how embarrassing, it's not enough, okay? So anyway, in this class, we're being very 扎实. We're talking about trills, taps, and flaps, okay? Right, so when you're reading, be very careful. 一个字一个字要检查 because it's very easy. Through your filter, you're memorizing, your brain replaces either a Taiwan English variant, some other word or sound, or something that is very 常听到, 最常听到的. For example, there's a really funny example, and that is for the price of things we say NT in English. That's 30 NT, that's 100 NT. However, my friend, my British teacher in fact, he said that's 30 NTU. Yeah, he said that's 30 NTU. But why did he say that? He's very smart, he knows better. He knows perfectly well it's NT. But he said 30 NTU. Why? He's my friend, therefore, I'm always talking about NTU. So he heard NTU more often than he heard NT. So even when speaking English, NTU popped out just because it's very frequent for him when he's talking to me. So NTU, I do it myself when I'm typing, 30 NTU, I will type it. It pops out because it is frequent, has high frequency. High frequency things get collected by our unconscious brain. It pops them out without thinking. So 频率高, this whole study of what is frequent, less frequent, and very infrequent, it's really important in language, in learning, in understanding, and everything. So frequency level, 非常的重要. Who was it last time who was saying, it was Wendy. Wendy's not here today. She said she took that online test of pronunciation that I posted, and some of the words were very unusual. 有没有人考过那个发音的那个 oral 的考试? Yeah. And a lot of them had very strange words. 就是很少很罕见的一些字. I can't think of one right now. Well, for example, trace and trace. Trace maybe is more common than trace. That's not so bad, but some of them use a very unusual word. So she's thinking, 大概要考我那个很罕见的那个字, or something like that. In any case, the frequency of a word is really important in how language works. So when you're reading, either it's Taiwan English that will pop out, or it's a high frequency word related to it that will pop out. Do you see? Just like NTU pops out when he meant to say NT. Okay? So therefore, is the trilled, 虚词是最容易念错的. You have to pay attention. So this is true. We have many kinds of R's in the world's languages. As we've mentioned, the American is it really common or not so common? It's quite uncommon, but like I said, languages that I have had experience with, English, American English, Mandarin, and Dutch in Leiden Dutch. 一般的荷兰语还没有，可是莱顿就有的这个音。So 很偶然. I have learned some languages that have the sound, but it is not that common. The most common realization, 实现 or 音质, realization of the R phoneme is the trill. And it's usually an alveolar trill. Do you all know how to make an alveolar trill? I learned it by practice. In fact, I learned it for German, but the kind of German I should have been learning was standard Northern German. But I think I had a Southern German teacher who trilled her R's, and I felt I should learn a R. And I just practiced it when I was 4 years old. I practiced and practiced America, America, until it came out America, America. Okay, I practiced it until it worked. You just have to keep practicing. And the funny memory was, 我滚在地上练. I don't know why, but I was only 4 years old. Okay, you need to practice it. That's the most common realization of an R. If you don't know how to do it, you should learn it. And there is I think, a very nice post from an old BBS. Do people still use the BBSs? Yes. 还在用. That's amazing. That's an pretty old technology that's surviving even in the days of Facebook. The one that you should look at is, what was that, Carol? Did I miss something good?
No, I mean, I have to log into my BBS site every day.
Okay, so it's an addiction just like Facebook. Yeah. Okay, well that was the bell, but we got a little distracted here. Let's do one more time. I'll just show you this page on trills. Let's go over it quickly. For those of you who have not yet learned the alveolar trill, this might be useful. All right, how many of you can do the trill? Can, 能够, 会. Okay, everybody perform for me and then I'll believe you. You can't. You got it, okay. Not yet, and Sylvie, no. All right, so most of you don't do it yet. Most of you don't know how to do it yet. And I tell a story here that actually happened. It was this first paragraph that tells the story of a former student. This former student used to be my advisee. She used to be my own student in phonetics. She now has a PhD from Wisconsin in 语言治疗. Yeah, she's really amazing. And because of this semester, she's the one who went on to 微积分. She got confidence in 数学 because of some of the things we did in this class. I was very proud of her. I am very proud of her. This is what happened one day. Okay, I'll just read it to save time. Trills, again, NR. There's another post on trills. You can read that in your free time if you feel like it. Lots of people here in Taiwan anyway, and probably others whose native language is trill-less, seem both fascinated and frustrated by trills. 又觉得很着迷，很有意思的一种音， but 同时又觉得挫折感很严重。 One day after a class, a student came up to me on the stairway of this building. 从1楼到2楼，我正要上2楼。 And this student ran up to me. 那个时候我还不认得他哎。 All right, and asked, how do you make a trill? 这很奇怪，我不认识的人突然间问我这个问题。 I asked her if she knew the Chinese folk song, flower drum song, 凤阳花鼓. Part of the chorus goes in 拼音，铃铛飘一飘， Can you sing the song? If you start on a D, it's sort of like a starting block for a race. It pushes you off into a trill. Everybody try the 凤阳花鼓 line. We've got some very good trillers here. All right, that's step number 1. Let's try to make it a project, a class project. Everybody learn how to make an alveolar trill. Because if you finish second semester of phonetics and people say, oh, okay, make a trill for me. You go, I never learned that. Yeah, 丢人, right? Not as bad as mixing up Thatcher and the Queen, but still kind of 丢人. All right. So put it in your notes. I want you to try and learn the alveolar trill. It can be learned, but it takes practice. Like I said, when I was a kid, I had to practice a few hours before I got it, but I got it. So the first thing is 凤阳花鼓. That's one way. Listen to the song, find it on YouTube, and practice it yourself. 铃铛飘一飘. All right, that's the first one. If you can sing this right, when you're singing it, then you have an alveolar trill. The student tried it, and on the spot, it worked. 她就是刚好. Okay, I said, you try this song. And then she started singing. I said, that's it. She said, okay, thank you. And then she walked away. It was the funniest thing. 就是那个互动的时间很短，成功了，她就走。Okay, and then she took the class later on in the future. But what if you don't get the drr right? If you can sing the song, but the drr is not correct? Some former students have suggested a method they read on the BBS that helped them, they say. And it's right here. I'll just show it to you really quickly. It's in Chinese. All right, it's a little bit long, not that bad. 后来还有人加了东西. Just read it yourself. It tells you how to the 头往. What's funny? What's that? 有点夸张. Is that why it's funny?
It's probably because like people have suggested ways because they needed to use water or something and then it's so
You have to do like.
Yeah, gargling or something. Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, so she explains it here, and basically what she's saying is, 头可以有点往后仰这样子. The reason is because that relaxes your tongue. 重量会往后移，然后舌头前面会放松一点. Okay, don't overdo it. But if you're a little bit 往后，舌头的前面会松一点 because you cannot have muscle tension in the front of your tongue. 你的舌头就舌尖的部分，如果肌肉有点紧绷的话，就是不会成功。So 必须要往后的话，前面可能就是有点懒洋洋的样子，松松的。Because it's in free vibration. 它不是故意的，是 in free vibration. 太往后的话，可能地心引力会把让它陷下去。Okay? So that's basically the suggestion. When you have time, you can read the Chinese, okay? So, BBS post. It suggests that you push the back of your tongue against your velum in order to relax the tongue enough so it can go into free vibration. This may not be the way you make a trill once you have mastered it. 所以你一旦学会了，可能你不需要 Okay, for example, 不需要 Okay? But it has helped some people successfully produce their first trill. So those are two methods now. 凤阳花鼓 is number one. Leaning your head back a little. Somebody suggested doing it in the bathtub. 不很多人没有澡盆，只有淋浴，对不对？那澡盆的话，这个是一个 Some people told me it worked for the first time when they were taking a bath. All right. And here is a whole linguist post on it. Those of you who are really gung-ho, if you want to keep up with what's going on in linguistics, you can 订阅 the linguist list. This was the first list I ever subscribed to on the internet over email. It wasn't the internet then, it was the email. And that was in 1993. 你刚出生了吗? Right, 1993. A friend says, Karen, you got to get email. I'm coming to your house. I'll show you how to use it. 这是我的好朋友，是正大的老师，他就说 you have to learn it. 我说好啊，好，改天吧。我一直拖，他说不拖，我说我 weekend 会到你家去。That's how I learned how to do email. Then I started teaching my students. Okay, the very first list that I subscribed to was the linguist list. So I've been on there since 1993. And that was in 2001. 这里有很多的建议, lots of suggestions. So 你真的没办法, you just keep going until one of them works. Okay? And one thing you can try is using the American English tap. Because if you get a lot of taps going, then you will get a trill. So I edited it. I edited it. I don't know if this really works well because you're using muscle tension. And muscle tension does not work with a trill. So I edited it. Anyway, it's an idea, just for your reference. There's an even longer one in a linguistics text. It's Dead-Headed Ed edited it. Dead-Headed Ed edited it. I said the whole thing. Okay, how? All right, so this is about the alveolar trill. And then for the uvular trill, in English they sometimes call it a burr, B-U-R-R. Burr 是会粘在衣服上的那些植物的籽，就是类似那个咸丰草的鬼针草的那种东西，那个是 burr，but 其实那些不是，它是一个圆球，上面很多刺，然后会勾到衣服上。That's a burr. But that's also another, it's a colloquial word for the uvular trill. Practiced by gargling, 漱口. This sound occurs in the speech of some older speakers of Northumbrian English, spoken on the northeastern coast of England, but it is dying out. I have heard that it's pretty much gone now. 就是英国的哪里？东北岸本来有个方言有这个 burr 这个 uvular trill， 可是现在几乎已经绝种了，没有了。And then here's a page from the BBC. They will have some speakers who still have this burr. I checked the links. It should be working. Okay, so I think that was it. It went by really fast, but yeah. So they had uvular trill in this variety of British English, but it's pretty much now extinct. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. We'll take a break now. Okay, let's get back to trills. We're talking about trills so far, and taps and flaps are coming. And we noted first that the most common realization of the R phoneme is the trill, the alveolar trill. It's the most common. So if we don't know anything about the language and we see an R, we can guess. I bet they pronounce it as a trill, and it really is true. Think of the languages that you've learned. Not all of them, but many of them will have a trill. Georgian uses a trill, for example. Russian and Georgian, they both use trills. And Spanish and Italian, many other languages you can think of. Some varieties of German and Dutch use trills. The R actually is often subject to Sprachbund effects. Everybody remembers what a Sprachbund is. So you'll find that there's a very large area of Northern Europe, Northern France, and the Netherlands and Germany. All of them, they tend to use a R. They use a uvular sound. A huge, huge area. That's an areal effect. And then in Germany, as you go further down, you will find alveolar trills. So depending on the part of the country, you will find different realizations of the R. So just by saying that this language has a R, it doesn't mean that all varieties of that language have a R. Or you say that standard German uses a uvular R, but non-standard varieties use something else, maybe an alveolar trill. Okay, let's continue.
This is why the IPA uses the common letter R for the trio,
It doesn't
for
say that.
trio,
Mhm.
and the typographically unusual unusual symbol upside down R for the phonetically unusual rhotic approximant found in English.
That's good, but slow down a bit. Put some pauses in. Remember how to phrase, 断句, okay?
Some languages contrast a long and short trilled R. You can listen to these contrasts in Icelandic by looking at the Icelandic page on the CD. Use the language index to find the page. The spectrogram in figure 7.4 shows an Icelandic minimum pairs contrasting these sounds in words saura, und, general plural, a genitive plural, and saura, sor, genitive plural. As the arrows in the spectrogram indicate, in the short r, there is one contact of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, while in the long r, there are 3 contacts. Oops, more than 3.
Okay.
In both cases, the tongue contacts in the trio are driven by an aerodynamic force in much the same way that the vocal folds vibration in the voicing is driven by airflow. So, even in the case of a very short trio in which there is only a single contact with the roof of the mouth, the movement is different from that in a tap or flap. In a trio, the tip of the tongue is set in motion by the current of air. A tap or flap is caused by a single contraction of the muscles so that one articulator is thrown against another. It is
So that, once more,
so that one articulator articulators one articulator is thrown against another. It is often just a very rapid stop gesture.
what kind of gesture?
Um,
Rapid?
Rapid stop gesture. Oh, stop
There
gesture.
we go. Okay. And we're going to get the Icelandic data ready here. And we've got, so we have a minimal pair contrasting which sounds? A long and short trilled R. Okay, and this one should have a long trill. All right, could hear the difference? Let's listen again. Sorry. And you can hear the r. So they have saura and saura, long and short trill. And it's almost like the difference between a tap and a flap, but maybe the first one, a tap is defined as having just one contact with the alveolar ridge, and maybe their short trill can have more than one. But it's almost like the difference between a tap and a trill. All right, so that's long and short trill in Icelandic, and they're contrastive. And the movement is still different from that of a tap. I said they sound similar, but the movement is still different from that of a tap or of a flap. Now, I think I've mentioned before that in Americanist usage, they use flap instead of tap. For the English, American English, water, water. That's a duh sound, right? I call it a tap because I follow the usage of this book. The majority of ESL textbooks will call it a flap. They will say the sound is flapped. Keep in mind that when they say flap, they mean what we're calling a tap, because we're going to use flap for a different kind of sound. It's related, but it's different. All right? So, how is a tap different from a trill? A tap is one contact. It's caused by a single contraction of the muscles so that one articulator is thrown against another. So our alveolar tap is not the only kind of tap. There could be other kinds of taps. In Minayu, I mentioned you have a lateral tap. We talked about that with Tara. Do you remember? That's also alveolar, but it's lateral. The air is coming out the sides of the tongue, Tara. And in any case, a tap is just one contact. It's just one contact, a single contraction. But a trill has at least how many contacts? 3. 3个以上, and then it's a trill. What is a flap? We're going to find out in the next paragraph. Is this okay for this paragraph? Let's go on.
It is useful to distinguish between taps and flaps. In a tap, the tip of
That's good, but slow down because these are keywords. Whenever you've got keywords, make them long and pause, okay?
In a tap, the tip of the tongue simply moves up to contact the roof the roof of the mouth in the dental or alveolar region.
Alveolar region.
Alveolar region. Region.
Right.
And then moves back to the floor of the mouth along the same path.
Okay, everybody say water. Water. Yeah, not water. Water is British. Water. Water. 点一下. Feel what your tongue is doing. Say it a few times. Water. 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 It's probably not the way you usually say it. Do you usually say it that way or not? Amy does. How about the rest of you? Water. How do you usually say it? You still say water, 比较多, 是不是? Well, if you're learning an American accent, it's useful to try and train yourself to use the tap because that's the way we say it. Water. Water. We don't say water. Water. Everyone, water. Water. Not wa, it's wa. Water. Water. Better. Better. Batter. Batter. Letter. Letter. Okay? That's the tap. All right. And then how about for tsara? if you speak Minayu, and even if you don't, if you know a little bit, say tada a few times and figure out what your tongue is doing and feel how different or similar it is to the American tap. Try. Okay, Jerome, you're a native speaker. So what's your feeling about tada?那个音. Chinese is fine.
就是我们在说 water 的时候，就是我的舌头比较用力去敲击上的，然后踩在的时候比较没有那么用力，然后两边有点往下。
Okay, so there's much lighter contact, 不是那么用力, and it's definitely lateral. It's definitely lateral. And you can't hold it long. That's the main thing that I keep telling you about taps. They cannot be lengthened because tala is not correct. Tala. Tada is also, that's worse. Actually, tala I think is better than tada. Tada. Okay? 比较起来, tala is not good, but tada is worse. Right? Is that right? Yeah, but it should be short. It shouldn't be lengthened. It shouldn't be tala. It should be tala, 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 tala. Very light. 有碰到吗？是有碰到，可是很轻。然后呢, it's lateral. I don't think people have written about it, especially from the point of view of analyzing it as a tap and a lateral tap. Somebody needs to write about it. So if somebody needs a topic for 研究所的那个研究报告, that's one that's not been written yet. But I think it's a really interesting topic because it's a sound that's hard for foreigners learning, not just foreigners learning 闽南语, maybe 外省人学闽南语, 这个也是有点困难，会不会？还是还好？ If you're not a native Taiwanese and you're learning 闽南语, 那个有点难还是还好？ Who is not a native speaker of 闽南语? All right. Well, you sort of are. 金门的那种.
But I didn't grow up listening to.
Okay. Okay. So for those of you for whom 闽南语 is not a native language, learning tada, tada, is that difficult or is it not so bad? Non-natives, please answer.
I don't think it will be a problem.
Not so hard?
I'm a native, so.
You're a native. Okay, sorry. Non-natives? Yumi, you're a non-native? You're native. Okay, who else is non-native? Okay, 你们? Oh, 小偷. 小偷, yeah. All right, so how about if Jerome judges, because your 闽南语 is pretty good. How about if you have them say it and see if they say it correctly by your standards? Start with Miranda.
It's acceptable.
It's acceptable, but it sounds a little off or not? Too much D?
Yeah, too much deep.
Too much D should be more L, right? Should be more lateral. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Okay, let's try Tina.
It's too much deep.
Too much D. Okay, for both of them, too much D. There we go. That's the answer I wanted. Okay, that's what I suspected. Because this sound also confused me. I learned 闽南语 mainly from Lu Yin Dai and from a Köppen. And this sound, is that an L? No, it's not an L. It's not a D. It's not a regular American tap. So this one had me confused until I learned more phonetics. 学多一点语音学, then it made more sense to me. Okay, someone should write about that. It's a really interesting sound. And the other transient sounds, we call them transients, 是瞬间的音, that happen with linking in 闽南语 are also interesting, like 几粒几粒吧, 那个 b, we get a voiced b there. 粒, that's voiceless, but 粒吧 is voiced. So 闽南语的这些 transient 的音 linking sounds 真的是蛮有趣的. Okay. All right, continue, please.
In a flap, the tip of
Flap.
in a flap, the tip of the tongue is first curled up and back in a retroflex gesture, and then strikes the roof of the mouth in the post-alveolar region. Region.
Good.
As it returns to its position behind the lower front teeth. The distinction between taps and flaps is thus to some extent bound up with what might be called a distinction in place of articulation. Flaps are typically retroflex.
Typically, don't pronounce the
Typically.
A. The A is not pronounced.
Flaps are typically retroflex articulations, but it is possible to make the articulatory
There we go, you got it.
the articulatory gesture required for a flap at
Pause. I knew you weren't going to pause. I could feel it. Okay. When you come to a 介系词, 连接词, remember to pause. Otherwise, it's hard to understand. So, but it is possible to make the articulatory gesture required for a flap.
required for a flap at other places of articulation.
Beautiful. The last time you got it just right. The timing was perfect. Other is contrastive. All right, other there is contrastive. Let's go on.
The tongue can be pulled back and then
Pulled back.
pulled back
连
and
接词要停，记得啊。Okay.
pulled back and then as it is flapped forward,
Good.
made to strike the alveolar ridge.
Make the made to strike the alveolar ridge. Made 重一点。
Made to strike the alveolar ridge or even the teeth, making alveolar or dental flaps.
Good.
Flaps are distinguished from taps by the direction of the movement, from back to front for flaps,
For flaps.
Good. Up and down for taps, rather than by the exact point of contact.
All right, this one paragraph takes care of this issue pretty much of taps and flaps. Just remember that a tap is like the American water and 미나유 차다. Both of those are taps. But a flap, your tongue starts in the back and goes forward. For a tap, your tongue goes up and down. Water, water, ada, it is. It goes up and then down. Everybody got that? For a tap, up and down. But for a flap, it's usually retroflex, which means your tongue is curled inside, right? And then you uncurl your tongue and hit something, usually your alveolar ridge, and that's a flap. A flap is with something like ara. Make it very retroflex. Ara. Ara. That's a retroflex flap. Let's practice it a few times. I'll model it for you as best as I can do it. I don't use it, although some people use it in American English. He's going to say in the next paragraph or so. For example, dirty. We have to curl our tongues. If you have a curled tongue retroflex for you might make a flap. So let's just listen for a while. My original example was ara, 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 ara. For dirty, I don't curl my tongue, but if I did, dirty, 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 dirty. When I make the D coming out, because my tongue was curled up, it's back to front instead of up to down. Okay? So everybody, first of all, try water, water, tada, tada. Okay? Now try ara, ara. Curl up your tongue, ara. Now that's a flap. If you curled up your tongue from the inside coming out, from the back to the front, that's a flap, rather than a tap. So when you see all of those ESL texts that say the word water is flapped, you just know they're talking about taps. You don't have to argue with them. There's no point, okay? All right. So try dirty, but make a retroflex for dir. I don't do it usually, but I do it I can force myself. Dirty, dirty, dirty. There. If you curl up your tongue, dirty, then that's a flap. Okay? That's what we need to know about taps and flaps mainly. Any questions? All right. Let's go on.
Some forms of American English have
American, your N.
American English
All right.
have both taps and flaps. Taps occur as the regular pronunciation. Regular.
Right. Remember, if it's not alveolar, we're going to keep the U. And by the way, I told you that after alveolar consonants, usually the U is dropped, right? But I was listening to Chang Chun Tung this morning. Angela was on, and she said lure, in yo. I think that was what she said. It was lure, but she definitely had a y. So it's not gone. Some people still have it. Okay.
Taps occur as the regular
Regular.
Right. pronunciation of
A lot of you are saying pronunciation, but it's pronunciation. Pronunciation.
pronunciation
Good.
of t, d, n, in words such as ladder, and tenor.
All right, when I say them, the first two are often the same if I'm speaking fast. Listen, ladder, tanner. But if I'm speaking very slowly and distinctly, I can say ladder, tanner. Now you hear the difference really clearly, right? When I'm speaking quickly, there is no difference. There may be a difference in vowel length. Which one may have a longer vowel? Ladder, the second one. But listen, I'll try to say it 不快不慢 and see if you can hear a vowel length difference or other differences. Ladder, tanner. Ladder, tanner. Now, if I force it, you can hear a vowel length difference, but normally in speech, you will not hear it. Native speakers won't hear it. There's a potential difference. Let's call it a potential. 是潜在的，是可以发挥出来的，可是常常没有。Tanner, what's a tanner? 处理牛皮、牛革，处理牛革 ，that's tanning。在可以用之前，要放在碱水什么的里面 ，that's called tanning. And a person who does that is a tanner. Okay, let's try those, everybody. Ladder, let's do all three together. Listen first. Ladder, tanner. Go. You made them very clear. You made the difference very clear. So that's how you can distinguish them if you want to. Let's go on.
The flap occurs in words that have an R-colored vowel in a stressed syllable. In dirty and sorting, speakers who have the tongue
In
bounced
dirty and sorting.
in dirty and sorting, speakers who have the tongue bunched
Who have the tongue paused. Paused, not paused. Who have the tongue bunched or retracted.
who have the tongue bunched or retracted.
Good. Say bunched.
Bunched.
You have too much. Open your mouth wider. 不要急，不要急。Bunched. You have a little 舌根，不要舌根，不要急着跟着念，你先听好哈。Bunched. That's better. Everyone bunched. Good.
Who have the tongue bunched.
Longer. Open your mouth more. Bunched.
Bunched.
Once more.
Bunched.
Yeah, be careful that there's no velar there. Okay.
Or retracted for the R-colored
The.
for the R-colored vowel will produce a flap as they move the tongue forward for the non-R-colored vowel.
No, na. 那是啊，不是是啊。Non-R colored vowel.
Non.
No, not none. Nan. No, just say na. N 点的 n. Nan.
Non.
There.
Non.
Yeah.
Non-R-colored vowel.
We already practiced that. So once more, everybody, try it with curling your tongue. Dirty. Sorting. Sorting. Okay. Next reader. Are we all clear? Okay.
Trills are rare in most forms of
Not in. In. That's better.
in most forms of English. The stage version of a Scottish accent with trilled R is not typical.
With trilled R.
With trilled R is not typical of most Scots. In Scottish English, R is more likely to be pronounced as a tap. The American pronunciation of paddle with a voice alveolar tap in the middle.
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 Not middle. Isn't it middle?
Middle.
Middle, yeah. Not middle. Middle.
Middle.
Right. Good.
Will sound to a Scotsman from Edinburgh like
Edinburgh. Okay, the American pronunciation is Edinburgh because we don't know how to say it right. But the Scottish or the UK pronunciation is Edinburgh. Edinburgh. You'll add a schwa at the end. Everybody, Edinburgh. Edinburgh. If you say that, you will command everybody's respect. Okay. Go ahead.
Edinburgh,
Right.
like this, like his regular pronunciation of pearl.
And that's a really funny comparison because it works really well. Let me see if I can find something in Scottish English. Here we go. Okay, that's a good example. I had another tape, but we don't use cassette tapes anymore, so I had to find something else. This one is a really interesting comparison because it works really well. So say 花瓣 in American English with a tap. Pedal. It's almost exactly how someone speaking Scottish English says 珍珠. Almost exactly. A pedal. Pedal. Isn't that amazing? 花瓣 in American becomes 珍珠 in Scottish English. Pedal. Pedal. Almost exactly the same. There's a little difference, but not much. So let's just listen a little bit to Scottish English. Remember, we've talked about the vowels, the a and the a merge into a single vowel. So they say father, fa. It's not fa and it's not fa, it's father. And then man would be man. Instead of man, man, father. So a and a merge into the same vowel. Let's just listen. Most famous, fe. It's not fe, fe, it's a monophthong. Yeah. Listen to his R's. Listen to his R's. After, after, did you hear it? And then it's not after and it's not after. It's after, after, after. And he had a little, listen. So sometimes I think the R is sort of like a British post-vocalic R, doesn't get pronounced much, but then sometimes it is a trill. Hearing, hearing. All right? So that was a pretty good sample. I'll try to remember to put it on Facebook so you can hear it again. Okay. Pedal, pedal. Let's go on.
The distinction between trios,
Not trills, trills.
trills, and different kinds of taps and flaps is much more
Taps and flaps.
taps and flaps is much more important
Important.
important
But Angela says important. I heard it this morning, okay?
more important in other languages. But before this point can be illustrated,
But before this point can be illustrated,
but before this point can be illustrated,
good.
we must review the symbols
Good.
that can be used for different types of R sounds. In a broad transcription for English,
Oh, there's an N. Transcription.
transcription
Good.
for English,
Good.
they can all be transcribed as R. But in a narrow,
But in
narrow transcription,
narrower.
but in a narrower
Yeah.
transcription, this symbol may be restricted to voiced alveolar trills.
Alveolar trills.
Alveolar trills. Alveolar trills.
Good.
An alveolar tap.
No, the first time was better.
An alveolar tap. An alveolar tap. Alveolar tap.
No, it's not a compound. Alveolar is a 形容词.
An alveolar tap
Mm-hmm.
may be symbolized by the special symbol
Tap.
tap
Mm-hmm.
and the post-alveolar retroflex flap. Retroflex
Good.
flap by
R with a hook. That's easy to remember. Remember, retroflex is always that hook down there to the right. So remember these two symbols. You already know tap, but now add a retroflex flap as well. An R with a little hook. That's easy, okay?
the approximate
Good.
that occur in most
That what?
that occurs
Uh-huh.
in most occurs
Good.
in most Americans' pronunciation.
Say Americans.
Americans'
Now it's good.
pronunciation of R may be symbolized by R,
Just keep going.
an upside down R.
Good.
If it is important,
Important.
if it is important
There you go.
to show that
It's not unt. Import, and don't open your mouth for unt. It's important.
important Important.
That's it. Everyone, important. But like I said, a lot of people now say important. I heard it this morning from Angela. And Angela is only a little bit younger than me. Okay? So she's not as young as you, and she says important. So I guess it's getting popular. But I still say important, important. Go ahead.
If it is important to show that this sound is particularly retroflex, is particularly
Once again, particularly.
Particularly
Good.
retroflex.
Retroflex. Good.
The symbol may be used.
All right, upside down R with a hook, and we use that for 北京话的儿子的儿, we use this symbol. Remember that. We learned it last semester, but this is a good review. Upside down R and then add a retroflex hook. Now it's easier to remember because you understand how it works. So 儿子的儿就用这个.
Most speakers of American English do not have a retroflex approximant, but for those who do, R is an appropriate symbol. Appropriate.
There you go. Good for you. Okay.
Symbol.
Good.
In a narrow transcription.
Good.
All these symbols are shown in table 7.6.
All right, let's look at 7.6. I thought we'd finish the chapter, but we are not going to. Okay, we go until 3:10, right? I don't think we're going to make it. We're close, though. Let's look at this table. So first of all, we've got a plain R, which is voiced alveolar trill, rrr, and that's the word for dog, which is spelled P-E-R-R-O in Spanish. Perro. Perro. All right, the next one is the voiced alveolar tap, and that one's got just one flap of the tongue there. It's pero. Pero. Good. The next one is a voiced retroflex flap, and we've got something from Hausa or Ausa here, which means servant, and that would be para. 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 Curl up your tongue and then open it up. Para. All right. The next one is the voiced alveolar approximant from American English, and that's easy. Red. All right. And if it's really and we curl our tongue then we can use the retroflex symbol. Okay. And then the next one is a alveolar fricative trill, and this is in Czech. So it's a regular alveolar trill, but it's fricative, so we've got more noise in there. So it's like rek, 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 rek. We've got friction in there, rek. Okay? And the next one is a voiced uvular trill. Rouge. Here it's not usually a trill. It's not usually a trill, but it could be. And when Edith Piaf sings, then it is. So, rouge. Rouge. Okay? Rouge. And then we have a voiced uvular fricative or approximant. If we have noise, if we have friction, then it's a fricative. If we don't have that frication, then it's just an approximant 接近音, and that's rouge. 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 Rouge has got friction and rouge does not. They're very close. 我们不区别. So, approximant and fricative. 如果是 voiced uvular 的话，都是用这个符号. Pay attention to it, because I have a little, I don't think I'm dyslexic, 可是常常是往右还是往左，我会忘记. So remember, 这个大写的 R, 那个鼓出来的地方是往右. Remember that. Because this is a really useful symbol, because a lot of you are learning French, right? And for German as well. The next one is a not voiced. Voiced. That's better, right? Voiced bilabial trill. And this is in Kele, which as I remember is, I think it's a Papuan language. 好像是巴布亚，新几内亚的. All right, so how are we going to make a voiced bilabial trill? Usually you start with an M. Pulling. You're great. That's a voiced bilabial trill. It is not very common. But usually it has an M in front of it. 几乎是没有 M 在前面是没有听过，没有听说过. Then we have something else. We have a, are we okay? Anything interesting? Oh, really? Yeah, it is. It's much harder without the M, which is why it always occurs with M as far as I know. It's not common, but when you find it, it has an M in front of it. And the last one is a xinghao. We use a xinghao when in the IPA? A special symbol. We don't have a ready-made symbol among the ones they give us, and we found a sound that we need to represent. And that's part of the answer to Carol's question.
Yeah.
But it's a very small answer.
So you replace all the symbols that you're unsure with the asterisk?
Not sure of it. It can be when you're not sure of it, but usually when it's a sound that doesn't seem to be in the table, it's something unusual. Before we had lingual labials, remember? La, na. That symbol is a brand new one. 那个海鸥那个符号，那是很新的，那是不到10年吧。That's the newest symbol added, as far as I remember. 我如果没有记错的话。Okay, so when we find a symbol, we find a sound, and we don't have a ready-made symbol for it, 我们先用一个星号, and then we put a little note in our paper what it means. In this case, voiced labiodental flap. Let's try that with be and u, with a voiced labiodental flap between it. Try it. Be boo. Be boo. 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 Okay? There we go. So that accounts for one of the sounds that you're asking about. Let's go on.
As illustrated in Table 7.6, Spanish distinguishes between a trill and a tap in words such as perro, dog, and perro, but. Similar distinctions also occur in some forms of Tamil, a language of southern India.
Southern, not southern, southern.
Southern
Good.
India. This language, like Hausa, Nigeria, may also distinguish between an alveolar tap and a retroflex flap. Trills may also have accompanying friction, as in the Czech example in Table 7.6, which uses the IPA diacritic, meaning raised and thus more fricative.
So let's just go over this paragraph before we stop. We've already mentioned that Spanish distinguishes between a trill and a tap. A trill is written with a double R, and also if a word starts with a single R in Spanish, that is also a trill. So for example, red is rojo. Rrr. If it's the first R in the word, it is also a trill. And there are also distinctions like this in some forms of Tamil. Tamil 的某一些方言，那是南印度的 Dravidian language 之一, and Hausa. And then in Czech, we have a very special one. And then they have an IPA diacritic. We've used that for what? Velar raising, right? Like in bang and in length and in sing, right? We use that symbol because it means to put the tongue higher. And that means it's more fricative. So instead of a regular alveolar trill, rrr, you're putting your tongue closer up, so we're getting noise because there's air rushing through a smaller space. So like reg, reg, rrr. Your tongue is closer and we're getting more noise. Okay, we didn't finish, but we're still doing very well. We will absolutely finish on Monday. And I hope to still have the test on Wednesday if possible. So Monday, our main goal is, remember to hand in your notes. We'll finish chapter 7. We'll go over the written and performance exercises. Now, in the written exercises, they say there are fewer exercises here because you should be doing bigger projects. You should be trying to do transcriptions of other languages. More ambitious teachers would have you do that, but I'm not doing that in this class because it takes a lot of time. It really takes a lot of time. I once taught a Phonetics 2 course. 基本上, so it was only part 2 of this book, but we had a whole year to do it. And we did do things like that year, but it really takes a lot of time and effort. The Guoqing Zhongxin is a really good place to find unusual languages, like from Africa or from the Solomon Islands or from Central America or something. You can find unusual languages easily, but we're not going to do that part. It's just too much. It's too ambitious for what we're trying to do. So do the exercises. You don't have to do that part. If you want to do it as a personal project, of course, 可以加分了, no problem. But we're not going to make it a requirement. These take some thought, so start early on them. 要想，要去找一些例子. So for Monday, notes, finish the chapter, mark the exercises. That should probably take up both hours. And then test next Wednesday if all goes well. Okay? We'll see you on Monday.